Hello friend, my name is Virat.
My name is Vaibhavi.
My name is Rishabh.
My name is Gopal.
Let's start SS lesson number 2, beginning of the British rule in India.
Beginning of the British rule in India.
The Europeans in India.
The Europeans in India.
India was a rich and purposive
India was a rich and purposive
country with spices,
country with spices,
calicos, silk, jewelries, pearl, imboni, and much more. Many Europeans, nations like France, England, Netherlands, and Portugal set out to gain control over different countries of Asia and Africa.
over different countries in Asia and Africa.
In May 1498,
In May 1498,
a young Portuguese nobleman and explorer Vasco da Gama landed on the shores of Calicut,
landed on the shores of Calcutta,
now Kozhikode, in Kerala. This was the first time that a European had set foot
that the Europeans had set foot
in India,
in India,
as this was the
and this was the
route which
route which
was discovered
was discovered
for the first time. Some years back, Italian explorer Christopher Columbus had set out on a voyage to reach India by sailing west, but had lost his way and mistakenly landed on the shores of America.
and mistakenly landed on the America.
Thus discovering two continents. Vasco had made his journey to India by sailing around the continent of Africa. This route came to be known as Spice Route. The Dutch, the French, and the British followed
And the French and the British follow.
the Portuguese.
The Portuguese.
All that time,
The
French and the British were
French and the British were
rivals in their race
rivals in their race
to colonize more countries
to colonize more countries
and increase their trading activities
and increase their trading activities
across the world.
across the world.
The British sent
The British sent
number of ships
number of ships
to bring back
to bring back
the exotic
exotic
items from
items from
the lands of
the lands of
the elephants,
elephants,
pearls,
Pearls
and maharajas.
and Maharajas.
Arrival of the British in India.
arrival of the British in India.
The East India Company,
The East India Company
formed by group
formed by group
of British
of British
merchants
merchants
with the main intention
with the main intention
of doing trade
of doing trade
with India.
with India.
In 1600,
In 1600,
by a royal charter
by a royal charter
granted by
granted by
Queen Elizabeth
Queen Elizabeth
I,
I,
the British East India
the British East India
Company was given the
company was given the exclusive
monopoly rights
monopoly rights
to conduct
to conduct
trade with India
trade with India
for more than
a decade
after the issue of the royal charter.
after the issue of the royal charter.
The company remained
The company remained
a trader sending
a trader sending
ship to India
ship to India
to bring back
to bring back
cotton cloth,
cotton clothes,
silk, spices, and other precious items.
spices, and other precious items.
By 1615,
By 1650,
Jahangir
Jahangir
allowed the trading company
allowed the
Company
to set up
to set up
a trading post
a trading post
in the
in the
coastal town
coastal town
of Surat
of Surat
on the west coast
of the west coast
of India.
of India.
This allowed
This allowed the
the company to carry
company to carry
out trading
out trading
activities
activities
within the areas
within the areas
ruled by the Mughals.
ruled by the Mughals.
The company was
The company was
ambitious and in less than
a decade set up
trading post
trading post
in Broch,
and Broch,
Ahmedabad,
Ahmedabad,
and Agra
and Agra.
was fought to gain control of India.
was vowed to gain control of India.
Growing influence of the East India Company.
Growing influence of the East India Company.
When the East India Company
When the East India Company
set up its trading post
set up its trading post
in India
in India
and began to expand,
and began to expand,
then the
then the
only intention
only intention
was to set up
was to set up
flourishing trading business.
flourishing trading business.
It was competing with other rulers,
It
rivals
was competing to other rivals
in the country,
in the country,
such as Portuguese,
such as Portuguese,
the Dutch,
the Dutch,
and its biggest enemy, the French.
its biggest enemy, the French.
It had to
It had to
protect its interests
protect its interests
so far
so far
as its trading was
as its trading was
considered Therefore, it began to fight wars.
it began to fight wars.
Later on, as the influence of the East India Company
The influence of the East India Company
rose, it began to fight
it began to fight
with the rulers
with
of
the
the
rulers of the
many kingdoms
many kingdoms
spread throughout
throughout
the country.
the country.
In the beginning,
In the beginning,
this was where
this was where
to safeguard their business
to safeguard their business
interests,
interest,
but later they found
but later they found
to rule India.
to rule India.
In the 18th century,
In the 18th century,
the rulers of various kingdoms
the rulers of various kingdoms
fought amongst themselves
themselves
to grab more land
to grab more land
and power.
and power.
The Mughal emperor
The Mughal Empire
was in a state of decline in the 18th century.
decline of the 11th century.
This encouraged
This encouraged
the rulers
the rulers
to expand and
to expand and
acquire greater power
acquire greater power
for themselves.
for themselves.
Some of the bigger kingdoms
Some of the bigger kingdoms
which had independent rulers
independent rulers
were those
were those
of Bengal,
of Bengal,
Awadh, Mysore,
Mysore,
etc.
etc.
The defeated of the French.
The defeated of the French.
The French had
The French had
established their own trading base
established our own trading base
in Pondicherry.
in Pondicherry.
They were one of the largest foreign traders.
They were largest.
The French and
The French and
English
English
were
were
constantly
constantly